Welcome to your deep dive on narrative writing. We've got some really cool material to dig into today, focusing on steps 3, 4, and 5.
Definitely. This is where things get really interesting.
Totally. This is where we get into the nitty-gritty of crafting those unforgettable stories. So, are you ready to unlock the secrets behind memorable adversaries, strategic plans, and those epic struggles that keep us glued to the page?
Oh, absolutely. I love this stuff. We often think of stories as just entertainment, but when you understand the structure, it's like you see how they resonate with us on a much deeper level.
So true. And one of the first things that jumped out from the material was this whole idea of the adversary. It's like the old rule book on villains has been thrown out the window.
It really has.
Yeah.
You know how we always kind of simplify antagonists, calling them the bad guys?
Mhm.
This material says, hold on a second, it's not that simple. A compelling antagonist isn't defined by simply being evil.
Whoa. So wait, are you saying most villains aren't actually evil?
It's more about their function in the story. They're not just obstacles for the protagonist to overcome. They're rivals, driven by their own desires.
Huh. So it's less about good versus evil and more about competing visions then.
Exactly. And the text actually uses the Godfather as a prime example.
Oh, interesting.
You've got Michael Corleone driven by this fierce desire to protect his family.
Right.
And then you have Barzini, who wants to maintain control over, well, the criminal underworld.
Yeah.
Their conflict. It isn't just some personal dislike. It's way bigger than that. It's about two powerful forces clashing. Dominance. Power. The future of New York City's criminal underworld. All of it's on the line.
Wow. So when the audience understands what's truly at stake, the values, the future, that's what creates that electric tension. It's not just a showdown. It's like a clash of ideologies, entire worlds colliding.
Now you're getting it. And here's another thing. The adversary, they don't always have to be another person.
Oh, that's right.
The material points out that sometimes the biggest adversary a protagonist faces, well, it's an internal struggle.
Right.
Or even a societal force they're battling against. But even then, it still boils down to the protagonist's desires clashing with something that stands in direct opposition.
So it's like what the protagonist wants most in the world. It's also the thing their adversary, in whatever form they take, is trying to keep from them.
Exactly. That common thread, that clash of desires, that's what propels the narrative forward.
Okay, this is all starting to make so much sense. We've established that adversaries are way more than just mustache-twirling villains. They represent something much deeper, a clash of values and desires. But how does a protagonist even begin to approach an opponent like that? That's where the plan comes in, right?
Absolutely. The author really stresses how crucial a well-defined plan is for the protagonist. But it doesn't have to be some big, complicated thing.
Oh, thank goodness. I was imagining protagonists running around with complex flowcharts trying to, outsmart their adversaries.
Yeah. Right. Sometimes the most compelling plans, they're more instinctual, driven by a character's gut feeling, rather than a meticulously crafted strategy. Like, take Jake Gitt's in Chinatown.
Oh, yeah.
His plan, essentially to follow the evidence wherever it leads. He doesn't even know the full picture yet.
So it's more about having that driving force, that strategy for achieving their desire, even if the specifics are figured out along the way.
You got it. The source material highlights that what makes a plan truly engaging for the audience is how organically it's connected to both the protagonist's deepest desires and the specific adversary they face.
Oh, I see. It's not just about what's the plan. It's about, will this plan work against this particular adversary? They're completely intertwined.
Exactly. And for a great example of this, look no further than Hamlet.
Okay.
The text uses his plan to expose the king's guilt.
By staging the play.
By staging the play, exactly. Brilliant illustration of this idea. See, his plan works because it directly addresses his burning desire for revenge while also playing on the king's paranoia.
It's like a perfectly placed puzzle piece that fits within the larger narrative. So clever. The plan itself becomes this source of tension and excitement. It keeps us on the edge of our seats wondering if it'll work. But then what happens when that plan is put into action?
That, my friend, is where we get to the heart of the story, the struggle. You say when that plan is put into action. But this struggle, it's not just about what the protagonist does,
Oh, interesting. What do you mean?
Well, it's more like it's the point in the narrative when things really heat up, stakes are raised, the conflict, it all comes to a head. Everything collides,
Okay, so we've got our protagonist, right? And they've got this burning desire pushing them forward. They're up against this formidable adversary, and they've got their plan in motion, whether it's all planned out or just a gut feeling. This is where the story really kicks into high gear, wouldn't you say?
This is where the magic happens. And get this, the material highlights just how many different ways this struggle can play out.
Yeah.
Like it could be a straight up physical confrontation,
Oh,
like Odysseus battling those suitors for his wife, Penelope.
right, right.
Or it can be something way more subtle, a battle of wits, like that courtroom showdown in The Verdict.
So it's not always about car chases and explosions, although I have to admit I do love a good car chase scene.
Who doesn't, right?
Yeah.
And those high action struggles, they have their place for sure. But you're right, it's not always about that. The point is, this struggle, it's that make or break moment for the protagonist's plan, that
Yeah.
point of no return, and the outcome. Well, it's not just about what happens to the characters. It shapes how we, the audience, understand the story's message.
That's so true. A satisfying ending. It isn't just about who comes out on top. It's about how that victory or even defeat, how it resonates, on a deeper level. It's about what it means in the grand scheme of the story.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
the text goes back to Chinatown to show this. That ending where, well, corruption wins.
It stays with you.
Right. Makes you think about truth, justice, those big questions. It's not about whether Jake, the protagonist, succeeds or not. It's more about that gut-wrenching statement about the power of deceit.
It really makes you think about how a well-crafted struggle can stay with you long after you finish the story. It's like a good book you just can't stop thinking about, or a movie that makes you re-examine your own life. It's like that struggle, it's the crucible where the story's themes are forged.
It is. It's where those abstract ideas become real, where the emotional impact hits you.
This has been incredible. This whole deep dive has completely changed how I see stories, I have to say.
Me too. It's crazy how understanding these basic mechanics, like the hows and whys behind adversaries' plans and struggles, can make us appreciate the art of storytelling so much more.
For sure. It's like someone just gave us a new pair of glasses to see our favorite stories through.
And here's the thing. These concepts, they're not limited to the world of fiction. Think about your own life for a second. What are the adversaries, the challenges you're facing?
Okay, that's a really interesting question. When you put it like that, it's making me think about how, I don't know, recognizing those forces, those adversaries in my own life, like you said, could actually be the key to, overcoming them.
See, that's what I'm talking about. This isn't just about analyzing stories. It's about taking that wisdom and applying it to our own lives, to our own journeys.
So it's like, instead of just letting life happen to us, we can approach our goals like a protagonist approaches their quest. Like we can make anticipate challenges, face those struggles head on.
Exactly. And just like the protagonists in our examples, our plans, they don't have to be perfect.
Oh, good.
What matters is having that clear sense of what we're trying to achieve and being willing to adapt along the way.
So true. Sometimes it's those instinctual plans, the ones that come from the gut. Those are the ones that lead to the most, I don't know, unexpected and rewarding journeys.
Absolutely. And when those struggles pop up,
Yeah.
because they always do, right? When we're in the thick of it all, we can remember it's all part of the process. In fact, it's in those moments of struggle, that's where we discover who we are, what we're truly capable of.
Wow. This whole deep dive has been a total game changer. And not just for how I view stories, but for how I approach my own life. This has been awesome. Thank you so much for taking this deep dive with me. It's been really eye-opening.
The pleasure was all mine. And remember, those stories, the ones that really stick with us, they're often reflections of our own journeys. So get out there, embrace your own narrative, write your own epic story.
And that's something I can get behind. Thanks for joining us for this incredible deep dive, everyone. We'll see you next time.